Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to what is now round 4 for the PLR World Tour Season 2, I believe it is, here at the famous Donington Park, located in, I believe, is just above Herefordshire. I'm probably completely wrong now. I should know this because I'm going to it in a month. But it is a relatively smaller track than what we are used to in GT racing. But there is 37 cars on tonight's grid, so we will probably see traffic playing quite a big factor in today's race. 30 minutes of qualifying, running a tiny bit later than I usually am. I had to restart my entire PC because something went completely wrong, but luckily it's all sorted now. But we haven't missed too much at all. Qualifying still in terms of AMS at the moment is a 127.4. Managed to log on to the free practice server for the last 3 minutes before everything went a bit wrong. But I believe I saw people doing 25s, I believe, or 26s. So that might be able to improve as well. We do see there's quite a bit of cloud cover today as well as quite a colder track compared to what we saw, I believe, at Nürburgring, where we saw, I think it was, what, 40-degree track? As VTech saying, a 26.2 is the fastest, so closer than I imagined it to be. But at the moment, I feel like that will probably become looking quicker. I think, was it Zunobovic who set that time? Might be wrong there as well. But in terms of what we see in the AMS at the moment, no one is actually improving. Apart from James Terry, who did just go across the line to go up into P8 with a 127.9. Still 7 tenths off of the leader there of Madsen in that 27 Aston Martin. There is actually quite a relatively big gap between the leader and the current bottom in terms of AMS of about 2.7 seconds. I'm not sure how it is going to be in terms of pros as well, because last time I believe we did see pros, especially silvers as well, being mixed in with the AMS times as well. Not saying the AMS aren't capable of getting closer to the silvers and the pros, but you expect the silvers and the pros to probably be higher positions than the AMS, but obviously some of the AMS this season will probably be promoted. We're only at round 4 though. I believe we're getting closer to the halfway stage mark. Our Lavi set that time, so there was a change when I had to restart my PC. So it might actually be a bit more on the difficult side for Zunobovic, who has, I believe, won every single race of this season so far. Paul Ricard, he won. Nürburgring, he won. I forgot what round 3 was. Well, round 3 was Nürburgring. Round 2, well, round 1 was Paul Ricard. Round 2 was... What was round 2? Why have I forgotten what round 2 was? I should know this. It doesn't matter. I'm sure someone will be able to correct me. But I'm not sure why I don't remember that. But Dino or Dino, I'm not sure, depending on where you're from, how you pronounce it. Halovac currently in P9, improving with about 10. Oh gosh, yeah, Red Bull Ring was round 1, wasn't it? Yeah, now I remember. Conrad won round 1 at the Red Bull Ring, and then his seat broke, I believe it was. And then it's been Zunobovic pretty much dominating for the rest of the season so far. If we'll see that going into round 4 at the moment, we'll just have to wait and see. Do you see we are approaching closer and closer towards when the silvers and AMS, silvers and the pros will be released for qualifying. See, gone and went on holiday. At least there's a benefit out of that. He went on holiday at least. Hopefully he's back there soon. Do you see there was, well, what seems to be Robert Jennings, who has been quite promising throughout the season so far for the AMS. Going across the line now to take P3 from P9 with 127.3, so getting closer to Madsen's time with that 127.1, exactly 2 tenths off his time. So there is still quite a big gap, to be honest, between P1 and P3. It's not as big of a gap as it could be, obviously, but I have seen the gap, especially in this league as well, being quite close before. Especially, I think Nürburgring was quite close. Going further down as well, we do see Revrock, I think, going through the crater curves now. Yes, he is indeed already about 700th of a second up on his first best lap time. Exiting the crater curves now. 1.5 tenths up. Might be able to go up at least a position, but it does seem to get between P10 and P8. It's quite significant of about 4 tenths, so there is quite a big gap there between them both. But it seems James Terry could be under a bit of pressure from Revrock for taking away his position of P9 provisionally, as it doesn't seem James is actually improving. In fact, he is on the red delta for now. 25 minutes left of qualifying, so we do see he is creeping ever so closer towards the start-finish straight. Just entering the final chicane there. I think the only chicane as well, unless you're taking the national route, I believe it is. Now going through the final corner. This is a very difficult corner, to say the least. We'll go on board of what he can actually see. I'm sure most of you already know, but it's quite a difficult corner, as we can see Revrock actually demonstrating for us. Unfortunately, losing all of his delta because of that. About 5 tenths up, all to nothing there going through the final corner. Just getting a tiny bit too eager on how much speed you can actually carry going through the final corner. But we do see Brian as well. You're probably going to go get ready for Pro Quali. Enjoy the race. Good luck to you, mate. Brian coming across the line now. He did improve, but it's not going to be enough for him to actually be able to get closer, to say the least. As well as we do see Victor going through the chicane. This chicane is obviously very, very dangerous going into the race. It's only an hour race, so it's not the longest races we have seen on the calendar in the past. But an hour with that chicane is obviously quite dangerous, with drive-through penalties for track cuts. We have seen it before. Well, I have seen it before. You probably have seen it as well before. It is quite easily done. So do you see him coming through the final corner? Gets quite a good exit on it. Does seem to run a tiny bit wide though. Is going to lose a tiny bit time going through it. Does improve. Very minimal how much he does improve. So it's that now we do start seeing, I believe, most people getting ready. Pros and Silvers getting ready anyway to line up near the pit exit, as well as we're on board with Enrico Itri. He's currently about 500 of a second up. Gets a bit of too much of the inside curve going on to the end of the crane of curves. Still around 800 of a second up. It doesn't seem he's going to be able to gain any more time going through the final section. In fact, he's lost all of his time he gained, it seemed, going through the chicane. But however, who hasn't lost that time so far just yet is going to be Colombo, who's only a few corners behind him. Now we do see him go on the back street before that brutal chicane. It does seem he did lose a bit of his time going through the double right. He is just very, very fractional on how much he can gain, but does seem he gets very, very aggressive on how much of the curb he can actually use on the inside line there. Unfortunately loses all of his lap time. However, we do see Revrock as well going through the final corner to go across the start finish line to actually go up into P7 for 127.7, followed then as well by Hudson's Buttons in the Delta Hunters livery, who I do know is now James, I believe his name is, going across the start finish straight to not have a valid lap. Oh, it was a valid lap time, but it wasn't enough to get anywhere closer to P9 of Colombo, as there's only now about a 2,000th of a second gap between them both, if not less. It was James Seal. Losing all of his time there on the final part of the corner, but he is just able to potentially go out for one more lap for the AMS. He does seem to actually mess up, unfortunately, there for him. That is going to be the end of his qualifying session, I believe. James Terry going through the final corner. Fighting to try and get a green delta here. Can he get anything on the exit? No, he can't. He is just flatlining the green delta at the moment. He does improve very, very marginally. How much he is able to improve. Actually, no, he doesn't improve. It does seem on my ACC TV it said he did improve, but it's lying. Do you see Itchy as well going through the final corner? This seems where I see everyone to catch. Going through up into P1 of 126.8. So the first 26 we have seen here today. I reckon we probably might be able to see a 25 from one of the pros if a 26.2 was present in free practices. We do see now most of the AMs wrapping up their qualifying now with 20 minutes left to go. It seems Jeffrey Whittle will be able to improve this lap, but we do see Halovac going through the final corner now. He is about 2/10 up. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough to put him up a position. It could do. He's able to keep it. Yes, he is. He's able to go up 2 positions there, I believe, going into a 127.4 for P5. 6.5 more or less off the leader. As well as that, as we do now see the pros getting out ready for their first laps. Does seem in today's case we do see all the way up to P16 is AMS, and then P17 to P37 is pros and silvers. So there are more pros and silvers here tonight, as you probably do expect it. There is quite a few AMS though in tonight's server. Only just seen that the bot that's supposed to ping the social media for the YouTube got banned or something from the server. That is probably the best thing I've seen today. Do you see? Is that a Jaguar? Or is that... No, that's an Aston Martin, I believe. Someone's using a V12. Oh my days. Adam Long, a legend, using the Aston Martin V12. Personally, my favourite car at ACC. You don't see them being very competitive. We do see as well Vil in that Writer, who we did see was looking quite competitive actually in tonight's field. I believe he was 3/10 off the leader in free practice, so there is actually quite a bit of competitivity for Vil in that Writer engineering car here for tonight. They do go on for their first time laps here, going through the crane of curves. He is up since his free practice time. Board of him. He does have quite a bit of clean air, as we can see both in front and behind him, so he doesn't have any sort of downside factor. Here we do see behind them there is a bit of a pack starting to form. Hopefully that won't actually affect him at all. He does go through now, going into the start of the back straight. Would be the final corner going on to the national track, but obviously the GT track being the international track, I believe. It might be called something else now. Does seem Vil goes a tiny bit wide. That's going to lose him quite a bit of momentum going in to the first of the 2 hairpins. Going into the penultimate corner. With that grass, he will probably have a tiny bit of a dirty part to his tyre, which will lose him a tiny bit of grip. For how long? It doesn't seem he's on the grass for that long, so it shouldn't be too bad. He goes through the final corner, does do it quite nicely. Goes across the line for P6 with a 127.292. Already losing a few positions, as we do see Nico taking the lead with 126.7, so it is quite well close so far between Axel, Itchery and Nico, with just about a 10th between them both, but that will obviously decrease as we see some of the other drivers, such as like Dean, who comes across the line now to take P1 as I predicted with 126.652. Obviously we did see there was a driver, I believe it was Olavi, who did take pole position in a free practice. I can't see where Olavi is on terms of my screen. He has set a lap, it seems. Does seem Alexander as well. Now going on for a second time lap already. Going on to the final two corners. He isn't up on his personal best lap time, but we do see Dean is on for actually quite a flying lap already. About 4 attempts up on his personal best delta. What seems to be going into, I believe, is that going to be, yeah, back straight. There as he is still up 5.5 tenths on his personal best lap time, so edging very, very closer to that 25s that I was expected to see during today's qualification session. But we do see as well Nico being able to regain the lead provisionally with a 126.2, but we do see with how big of a gap Dean is almost being able to create with this delta, with now losing a tiny bit of it, but still about 6 tenths to his name. Might be able to take it by quite a margin, but we do see a Lavi there, who I was looking for earlier, going into P2 with a 126.3, but we do see there Blackick as well with a 26.3, but we do see obviously Dean with 126.045, and he is already improving going into turn 1. So he is on for that 25, but it does seem he goes a bit wide there. But he is still up though, so it might have worked somehow. As well as Declan Brogan in the Lamborghini. You don't see too many of these Lamborghinis. I believe there are, well, there's two of the Hurricanes and obviously one of the Gallardo. It does seem he goes through the final corner. He is up by quite a bit of time as he goes across the start finish line now. But he isn't going to be able to go up any sort of position there because it seems to be an invalid lap time set by Declan Brogan, as well as we do see Vink. Obviously in the Aston Martin we've seen for both this season and last season. Going through the final corner, it loses a lot of his time, but can he gain it back on exit? Yes, he can. Being able to gain about a tenth or so, but it isn't going to be a valid lap time either. It doesn't seem anyone's being able to set valid lap times at the moment. It is quite a tricky track as we can see Blackick struggling on the exit of the first of the hairpins. So as we do see now Nico nearly 2.5 tenths up on his first best lap time, actually looking to put Dean under some pressure here. Dean is also out, but he is out for an out lap, I believe, so he has gone for some fresh tyres and some more fuel. 13 minutes left of qualifying now. We do see Nico coming closer to sector 3 to go through the double right-hander, as we do see that is, I believe that was Vinkoff in the gravel lap. Through the back straight, he is a 10.5 up on this personal best lap time. If he needs to try put any sort of pressure there on Dean, he needs about what was about 7 tenths, but it's obviously auto updating every time I speak. Loses a bit of time on the exit of the chicane. He gain anything back going through the final 2 hairpins? Yes, he can. He was able to gain about 2 tenths going up into the, well, penultimate hairpin, but loses it again, so it's fluctuating quite a bit as he goes through the final corner. It does seem he struggled a tiny bit, but he goes across the line, not being able to take part on Dean's lap time of that 126.045, but does take 900ths of a second between them both now with 126.137. So let's go further down. Blackie as well going through the final hairpin. Try get closer to those leaders or try and take a Lavi's lap time, which he is able to do with that 126.297, slotting himself up into P3. Juicy going further down. It doesn't seem Anthony Fox has been able to set a lap time just yet. This might be his time to shine. Going through the final corner with 1.1 seconds to his name, going up into P5 there with a 126.555. Huge improvement there from Anthony Fox. You see it's getting quite crowded there. We see quite a few cars going into Sector 1 already, as we do see Victor just coming out of the Creighton curves now. 3.5 tenths up in his first best lap time, getting actually quite close to Dean's time as well, but we have seen this before. So there's that going through now, that chicane, and it does seem someone has taken out the tyre barrier already. Does seem Alavi was able to take pole position away from Dean with that 125.9, so we have breached into the 25s now, but I'm staying on board with Victor, who might be able to improve. It won't be enough for the lead time, but he might be able to get closer to Dean on P2. 4/10 to his name so far, going through the final corner. Can he make anything on the exit? Yes, he can. Goes across the line to take P3 with that 126.135, so there's still just, I believe, a tenth or so between them both, so there isn't that much time between them both, as we just see now Robert Alavi coming back out for the final 10 minutes to set. We'll try to set a better lap time, but we don't see Dean is actually being able to improve just yet on Alavi's lap time, so this might actually be quite a close race between them both. So we have seen this before. I believe it was Paul Ricard, it was, I think, Propeller and Zondabovic, who were very, very close with each other, but it does seem Dean had quite a good strategy during that race and was able to take pole position for round 2, I believe it was. As well as that, though, we do see Declan Brogan once again looking to set a valid lap time. 5/10 to his name so far. Do you see Dean is behind him, though, but he is too far back to get any sort of pressure from Dean. Going through the final hairpin now. Is still going to be up on his first lap time, but does lose quite a bit of time. Setting himself up into what is P12, nearly was P13 for a second, but because it did seem one of the other drivers was about to take it, it takes himself with a 126.670. So it's now David Cook in that Bentley. It does seem he hesitated a tiny bit going through the penultimate corner of the hairpin, which did lose him all of his time he was actually up by. Can he gain it back going on to the final hairpin? It does seem he gains a tiny bit of lap time, but it's very, very fractional how much he actually gains. But he goes across a lap time of a 127.047. Do actually see now Dean is improving going onto the back straight. What is going into now, I believe, Sector 3 with about 1.5 to his name, which will be enough for pole. 8 minutes left, so there is no pressure on him just yet. He has lost a bit of that lap time, though, going into the penultimate corner. Can he gain it back on entry and exit? Yes, he is. He might be able to get into the 125.8, so this rate is he's 2 tenths up. Can he get any more time going into the final hairpin? Yes, he can. He does go on the grass, though. Can he save that lap time going through it? No, he is not able to. And he is not going to be happy with himself there. Dean almost near perfect lap time for himself there. Unfortunately, it's not going to be for just now anyway. Alexander then. Final hairpin is going to be up 5/10 on his first best lap time. Puts himself up to P7 with a 126.385, but isn't going to be enough to get further up. But does seem he could just even improve 400ths of a second and go up a position. So it is getting quite close between the top 10 so far. So as that, we can go further down. We do see Elmstrom in the PLR Academy livery. There is a yellow flag, so I assume someone has just gone off to try to take the final 7 minutes with a new set of tyres. He is still up 3.5 tenths now. He is still gaining. Coney, unfortunately, last in the pro category, but he is looking to make a change. With the time he's gaining, he could potentially go up into P15, but at the moment it might not be looking likely if he keeps making small mistakes, as we saw him going through the right-handers. Hopefully he can keep it. Going through now the penultimate hairpin, gains quite a bit of lap time, actually makes a significant improvement. Can he do the same going into the final hairpin does seem he loses a tiny bit on entry. Can he make it back on exit? Yes, he can. It's going to be 4 attempts to his name. Going up to P60 now for 126.8. As we do see there's a bit of... I actually have to agree here. I have to find the car, I believe. I'm not sure where he is, actually. Where is he? Here we go. Adam Long in the Aston Martin V12. The best car on the grid, in my opinion. Hate to break it to you, Vil. You've been outdone by the Aston Martin V12. Even though I have so much respect for Vil. He's actually been able to take, currently, provisionally, P8 with the Writer Engineering, which already, in general, is such an impressive task. Let alone he was very, very close to... I think he was quite close to taking the podium step on Red Bull, I believe. Or is that the race he got taken out? I forgot. Declan Brogan now going through the start finish straight. Isn't going to be able to improve again. Does seem he keeps making invalid lap times when he does gain a significant amount. I'm assuming he is cutting quite an absurd amount. Or unless he's getting very, very unlucky. Miguro then as well in the Amazon Racing. 1.5 tenths up in his best lap time. Can he easily get up into the top 6 potentially if he's able to maintain this 2 tenths he has, which at the moment he is looking quite likely to be able to do, going through the final 2 corners now. Gains a bit of time on the entry and exit going in to the penultimate corner, but does lose a tiny bit of time. I assume might have been a tiny bit of an oversteer moment that we didn't see. You see, I think that as Blackick just letting Giro go by. He goes through the final corner. Does lose a bit of time, unfortunately, there for him, but he does still improve at least 1 position, taking Vil's P8, but he does go straight back into P9. As I believe it was Alexander. No, it wasn't Alexander. It was someone else who did just unfortunately take a position away from him. So was that now? Lavi once again looking to improve his personal best lap time, currently in P1, trying to extend the gap between him and the rest of the field at the moment of 1.5 tenths so far up on his personal best delta. Going through now the hairpin. Loses a lot of his time, unfortunately, though. In fact, he loses all of his time on the exit of it. Goes through the final corner. Can he gain time? He can, but loses it on exit once again. Goes across the line to actually set a 125.980, so it isn't going to be enough just yet to get closer, well, further and further away from the rest of the grid, but closer and closer to those mid-25s, which I don't think we'll be able to see tonight as we are getting closer to the end of qualifying. I think the only car improving at the moment with 2 tenths to his name is able to put himself in P6 so far, but he wants to go better. So at the moment he is on task to be able to do 2 tenths of his name, going through into sector 3 now. Going through the chicane, gains a lot of time going through the exit of the chicane. I'm not sure how much of that is valid. I assume it's still valid because he is still pushing. Now going through the penultimate hairpin. Loses a lot of his time once again on the entry of the hairpin. If he can try save it going through the final corner, have to wait and see. Takes obviously the outside line, trying to curve and aim for the inside line going through to the final part of the hairpin, but he isn't going to be able to improve at all. But we do actually see Alavi improving as well as Dean. As we can see, I believe Dean is shot. No, that's Victor. He comes across the line to do a 125.7. Can we see Dean actually get closer to the lap time? Needs to find 2 3/4 of a tenth to actually, well, safely have P1 at this time. But he is actually gaining 3.5 tenths now going into the final hairpin. So he is actually going to be able to take... Is he going to be able to take pole position away? Is he going to be able to... Yes, he is. A 125.712 there from Dean Zanabovic, being able to take and regain pole position with only a 600th second between P1 and P2. There is very, very minimal between those two drivers, and it does drop off a bit there. Victor with 4 tenths between them, but these two drivers here, which seems to be Nico and Victor, 2,000th of a second between each other, so it's getting very, very rowdy, all without the pack within each other. So it is good to see that, well, there is quite a bit of competition here for tonight. So we are at 37 cars, which again will play a factor during this race, as we do see times ranging from 129s all the way to 125. So there is quite a big gap between them both, and obviously consistency plays quite a big part in this as well. Consistency is better. Consistency and racecraft is definitely better than pace. Does seem Sebastian going slow there. Not going to be able to finish his final lap then. Further on, we do see some of them taking the checkered flag now, but we do see Declan Brogan actually improving on his lap time going through the final corner. Can he maintain this lap time, or is it going to be an invalid lap time? As he comes across the line, it is going to be valid, taking it up into P13 now with a 126.5. Is that going to be the case? We don't see anyone is actually improving apart from Sremovic, currently down in P16. Fighting to keep Green Delta at the moment, going through the final two. Hairpins, is he going to keep his lap time? At the moment, it doesn't seem he is going to be able to. He still has one corner to try shave a tiny bit of lap time off. Because all he needs is about 200th of a second to be able to improve. Can he do it going through the final exit? No, he is not. He's going to be able to have to take the checkered flag going into P16. And that is going to be the end of qualifying for round 4 here. It does seem I did cut it at the wrong time, but he goes straight into the water full speed there. An hour race here, so there is quite a bit of playtime during this race, you could say. So I do get ready. In terms of what we did see, it isn't going to be at the moment close enough for anyone to be able to actually, well, mid-pack I'm trying to say, is because it did seem to be quite far away from each other, going from the AMs to the pro parts of it anyway, because compared to what we have seen recently, some of the AMs have actually been faster than some of the silvers and some of the pros, which starts to make you suspect that they might actually be, well, not AMs. But we do go on, obviously, for the grid walk as usual, as we will go straight on with it, as we don't have that much time actually. So do you see currently in P1 it's going to be Dean Zunobovic as usual in the 19 Mercedes, followed then by Olavi in the Ferrari 296, currently in P2, then followed by Victor rounding out the top 3 in the McLaren 720S Evo number 9, which is good to see. There is 3 different manufacturers taking the podium steps, followed then by Nico in the Aston Martin number 16 taking P4, followed by Blackick in the McLaren 720S Evo, then Vink and Edid rounding out the top 7, followed then by Kukovic and Magiro and Propeller rounding out the top 10 in all different car manufacturers as well, followed then by Vil in the number 1 Reiter Engineering Lamborghini Gallardo, followed then by Sebastian Elmstrom in the number 22 PLR Academy Aston Martin V8, followed then by Declan Brogan, who we have seen improve on that final lap, taking himself up to P13, followed by Anthony Fox in the number 11 Porsche 992, followed then by Zorakic in the 296 number 6, currently in P15, going outside of the top 15. Now we do see Sremovic in the triple one McLaren 720S, followed then by that all saint of the Adam Long Aston Martin V12 Vantage, then followed by Axel Itri, P1 in AMS class, currently so far in the 296 GT3, followed by Tom Week and Halovac rounding out the top 20, then followed as well by, I believe it's Dan Cook in the 38 Bentley, as well as Enrico Itri taking P2 in the AMS, and then rounding out the top 3 for the AMS in P23 is the 27 of Madsen in the Aston Martin, followed then by Robert Jennings in the 99 Bentley, as well as Halovac, Jeffrey Witter, Rev Rock, as well in P27 in the 39 BMW M4, followed by Liam Bow, Colombo and Hutton's Buttons, running out the top 30. Then the final few drivers, James Terry on the left in the 25 Aston Martin, followed then as well by Dabrowski in the 24 silver Aston Martin V8, followed then by Victor as well, Stickfoot, Breen, Brian, and last but not least is going to be James Seal in P37, being your grid for tonight's race for round 4. You see there is some people shouting chat, that's always good to see. Bit of support as well for what is going to be the V12, who is currently, obviously, I believe he was in, P17, so he could actually make quite a bit of progress during this race, is to say the least, as we do have, obviously, this quite short, well, relatively short formation lap here with all 37 cars on the grid. Hopefully it makes some good racing here for tonight. I've got promise for them, as it does seem for half of the race so far it will be dry, but with the amount of cloud cover we do see on the radar and what you could potentially see in the sky if we get some sort of coverage of the sky at some point, is how dark the clouds are as well, which does make stuff more interesting throughout the race if there is going to be rain. I'm not sure if Greg or any of the other admins have set it for rain. If so, that would make it quite interesting, as you can see now how dark those clouds are. If it is just going to stay like this, whether it's going to be a bit different throughout the race, it does make it a bit interesting. It's an optimum track, obviously, just coming off the same track as we did saw track status as the end of qualification, being on the same day of the race. 15-degree track. Mike W saying go, go, go. Best of luck for all drivers. They'll definitely need it. Very narrow track, obviously, which can make it difficult. And it's quite unforgivable as well. If you do touch the grass, it's better than, obviously, some sims we see like iRacing or AMS2, where if you go on the grass, there is no chance of you recovering that car. But ACC does seem to be a bit more forgiving if you do go on that grass. But going 3 wide Fittle is quite unsensible. It's also quite unlikely unless it's on the start. But it's all about just obviously common sense throughout this race. It's a long race, it's an hour race, which is quite a common race duration, but still quite a long race. It's about 30 laps approximately, estimating during qualifying time. So 30 laps is still quite a long time. Obviously the gaps will open up throughout the race, as they will always do. Do you see now Robert Alavi in P2 being absolutely gapped by the leader on the formation lap there? So we do see they were going to that side-by-side configuration. Obviously Dean taking the inside line benefit, being in P1 for the start of this race, as we do see them now going side by side, getting ready to start this race, going through the final 2 corners here now. We do get ready. One more corner before the start of this race. Hopefully it's going to be clean, but obviously being such a narrow track as I was just mentioning, it might be a bit difficult to stay clean, as we are about to go green for round 4 of the World Tour Challenge Pro League Racing Season 2 here at Donington Park. To see if Dean can take another win, or is Alavi or some of the other drivers going to be able to try take their first wins of the race. So do you now see we will be going green now, as we do see Dean doesn't get the best of starts compared to what we see Victor all over behind him, as we do see takes the complete racing line already, being able to have that clean air. As we do see some of the drivers going 3 wide already, as we do see that's going to be Elmstrom unfortunately getting a tiny bit of contact there, so that's going to put him severely down in the order, and that is a humongous piece of contact there. That's going to be Robert Jennings as well as Anthony Fox, both being collected in that gravel track which makes it a bit more interesting for them going further up in the orders there. So we do see Stickfort currently in, I believe, is going to be P26 going past the Broski there. So you do see that is going to be, I believe, one of the McLaren 720S Evos of, I'm not sure who that is actually, unfortunately going off on his own, getting a tiny bit of an oversteer moment, going on to the crane of curves. And that is going to be him losing quite a few positions. We do see, it does seem Victor was able to get by Alavi in the first lap, which does make it a bit more interesting for the lead of this race, because Victor seems to be all over the rear now of Dean for position, as he does just have to creep back a tiny bit. We do see, again, Alavi once again back in sight for this position. We do see going further down as well. We do see Breen and Hutton's buttons. That is going to be the McLaren O'Brien going off into the sun trap, already going into the final chicane. Going further down as well, we do see that is going to be Victor going on the inside of the Ferrari of Breen. It's not going to work for him just yet. He is just going to have to try input himself to stay side by side, but going side by side and having the outside line going into one of these hairpins is practically game over. What was that? Anthony Fox just seeming to get a bit late on the brake there, just contacting with what seemed to be Breen there, and that's going to lose Breen quite a bit of time and having that damage as well. But Anthony Fox going further and further down into the grid there, as it does seem Robert Jennings getting a bit sketchy there with Alan Breen going into the crane of curves now for the second time in today's race. But they do seem to both be single file once again, which is kind of a blessing for them. Now James Seal once again under that pressure from what seems to be, is that Ricardo Colombo? I believe it is. Yes, it is. Just looking to try and get past at any opportunity given, as obviously this is the best time to gain those positions, but it's also the most risky time to gain those positions, as we have seen already going into the first races. Greg saying, looked like Jennings was, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Did seem a bit either hesitant, as we do see what has happened there. That is going to be, is that, I'm not sure who that is. Is that Hutton Buttons? Yes, that is. We'll get a replay of what happened there. Going back 15 seconds to see what happens going through. Now the right-handers, does he go a bit wide? Yes. Going on to the outside apex, going into the middle of the double right-handers there. Just gets a bit too much grass, unsettling his 992. And unfortunately losing so many positions that he has to gain back now. As well as the Broski now under pressure from Stickfort for position. He tries to take it around the outside. Is there going to be any sort of switchbacks? No, it does seem Stickfort was able to glue the inside line, and it didn't seem the Broski was going to be able to get enough grip to be able to try pull off that maneuver. Do you see now Dean starting to gain a tiny bit of breathing space from the rest of the field now? About 1.5 seconds between him and Victor in P2. Victor being under quite a bit of pressure compared to Dean, trying to have to defend while also trying to be aggressive, trying to get past. Well, not get past anymore. It's going to be trying to gain time to Dean. But he is going to be losing time. But do you see in terms of last lap times, Alavi's still in favour. In fact, everyone's still in favour of Victor up until what seems to be P7. So it does seem he might have a bit of a task on his hands to try do it. As we do see, was that Alavi? That is going to be Alavi. What happened to Alavi there? Alavi is going to be going into now the final. What happened there? I'm genuinely confused if he just loaded his brakes too much, or what happened there. Actually, that might be the first time I've ever seen that kind of incident in ACC. I'm only assuming his brake bias might have been a tiny bit too low, which caused the brakes to be loaded too much and it unsettled the car. Oh, he touches the grass. Oh, okay. I didn't see the grass part, but it does seem Halivac going into the pits now to serve his mandatory pit stop. But he does seem to be carrying quite a bit of damage as well to the front of his Ferrari, so he's probably going to have to get that repaired as well. We do see how bumpy Donington's pit lane actually is. I never actually noticed how bumpy it actually is, but we do see Vinking very, very roundy now with Blackett for position number 4. As we do see is that the blue flags already being waved, so I'm assuming a few cars. Yeah, James Terry obviously serving his mandatory pit stop early, as well as Halivac, as we will see him appear into sight of the leaders ever so shortly. Border the curb with grass, pulled him under brakes. That's really unfortunate. I didn't see him touch the grass. But I'm kind of surprised that still happens. Does seem that Vink is just going to have to still tuck himself away into P5 and wait for another opportunity for Blackick to be able to make a mistake. In fact, this might be his opportunity. No, it looked like it was going to be his opportunity, but wasn't able to in the end, as well as Alexander Kukovic behind him, as well as the rest of the field, who are starting to lose this field up into a dead in P7. So it's a bit of a train that's starting to formulate down to Meguro. He's actually in no man's land at the moment, which is kind of a bit of a blessing for him, unless he gets caught up by this pack of Vil, Declan Brogan, and pretty much the rest of the field. So as that is Elmstrom trying to regain the positions he lost on the first turning, as he's going to go side by side going into the crane curves here with another Aston Martin of Madsen. He's currently in pole position, or was in pole position for the AM class. He gets the inside line going into turn 4. He is just going to be able to take it very confidently there, as crane curves is not the greatest place to be overtaking, especially if you're trying to survive during this race. Stickfoot as well in that Golf McLaren livery. Under pressure from both the cars behind and the cars in front, he is losing time to what is James Sewell in front of him, and he's actually losing time to Dabrowski as well behind him. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dabrowski is able to get by in the next coming laps or so. What's that? We're almost nearly 10 minutes into this race already, and it's still not calming down at all. It does seem now P8, 9 and 10 starting to make a bit of a gap for themselves. Propeller's still under that pressure from Declan Brogan behind. Declan being able to gain 2 positions since the start of this race. If that luck is going to be able to keep up for him, we'll have to find out. What's that going up? Nico battling here for P2s, it does seem. Now, Dean being able to already create a 4-second gap between him and Victor, but now Victor being under pressure from Nico in the Aston Martin. Let's just look for a move. It's not going to work just yet for him. In fact, he loses quite a bit of time doing a juke move there. In fact, he loses even more time, as we could see his steering inputs symbolizing he had a bit of an oversteer moment there, and that's why he lost so much time to Victor, and now he's under pressure once again by Blackick. We've seen this happen before. Going on to the 6th lap soon. So as Arlavi trying to regain these positions, he unfortunately lost. Hopefully he doesn't have that same mistake going into what is going to be the chicane. He looks to go side by side with what's going to be Elmstrom there, as he's still side by side, managed to actually keep it going into the chicane. Having the outside line though might not be able to work unless he does some sort of magic. He does just break a bit later than Elmstrom. Elmstrom not really fighting for that position, as he's still probably traumatized from what happened there. As we do see, I believe that is again another car getting it. Well, he's actually gone. I believe we've had our first disconnect of our race, or is he still a ghost car? I'm not sure what's happened there, but there is an invisible car, and in fact I think we might have just lost him in the disconnect. I'm actually not too sure. There was an Aston Martin. He is now gone. But it doesn't say he has left the server just yet, so that is a bit of a concern, I'll be honest. But hopefully that is resolved soon. So as Declan Brogan now putting a bit of pressure down on Propeller down in P10. Lamborghini versus... well, it's 3 Lamborghinis battles, all different generations here. Does seem Vil still being able to hold off the 2 newer generation Lamborghinis now going into this chicane. He is still going to be ahead. It doesn't seem the slipstream, even though slipstream isn't going to be the huge help during this race. It's not the biggest straight here. The only big straight would be really the crane curve straight, and that's not really a straight, that is just flat corners. But that's where dirty air will probably play quite a big factor as well. Do you see Tom Week doing a bit of a switch back there on what is going to be Sremovic going into the hairpin at the moment? He is now fully ahead, as he does keep his position of P15, as I believe it was Sremovic actually put a bit of pressure there on him, but wasn't able to work just yet for him. going further down as well, as we do see Alan Breed now all over the rear of James Seal for position, as well as that we do see Robert Jennings, who doesn't seem to be glitching anymore, is just right on his tail. At the moment, the people who have pitted, there's actually quite a few pitters so far. 3 people pitting, as it does seem Halifax still in the pits. So I'm not sure. Oh no, he is just driving out the pits now. He has been in the pits for quite a while, so I'm assuming he was hitting for damage as well. So that's Blackick in P4. Actually starting to lose the gap of Nico and Victor behind, well, in front of him, as well as Vink behind him. Actually being able to gain. Same with Alexander being able to have the minor assist of Slipstream. Hashtag 4 is almost 12. I'm not sure what you're not sure about that, but we do see Tom is able to defend his position again, but we do see a switchback was present there. How successful it was going to be going into the start-finish straight, we'll have to find out, as Sremovic is still being able to continue his position of trying to get back up into P14, but I believe we've had the disconnect. Yeah, we have finally had that disconnect. I believe it might have been the Aston Martin that has went, but we do see Sremovic was able to get past Tom Week once and for all, most likely, as we do see actually there's going to be a tiny bit of, well, aggression from Tom Week trying to get past. It looked like he was going to try to go for the inside line going into the end of the Crane curves, but luckily he didn't. That's hashtag 4 in almost 12. I'm assuming you're supposed to say 12th position? I'm not sure if I'm right about that, but nearly. He is very, very close with it. He's about 8/10 off Zerara Kick, as we'll get him on stream now, as we do see that Ricardo Colombo losing that position to what is going to be, is that Breen? I believe that is Breen. That was a very clean overtake if it was. No, that one's going to be James Seal for position, as we do see there's going to be contact between them both, so there was a bit of retaliation there from what is going to be Ricardo Colombo regaining his position. That was a very, very nice battle that was between them both there. There's a bit of glitching once again present from Robert Jennings, so hopefully it doesn't cause any sort of issue there for them. Is there going to be any, once again, any sort of retaliation going through, as we do see Robert Jennings is going to go side by side with Alan Breen for position. Does seem Robert Jennings stood no chance with Alan Breen because of that inside line that Alan did have, as we do see as well Hutton's Buttons going into the hairpin. Doesn't seem he's going to be able to take this one for now, as it does seem Jeffrey Witter was able to take the inside line for it. Well, it's going up once again. Declan Brogan getting ever so closer to Propeller, as well as we're able to see Vil once again being able to defend his position of P9 so far. Pit stops will make a major difference during this race, as we do see all 3 of these definitely being a Lambo club, as we do see Mike saying in chat. And now it could be Vil's end, as we do see he's go down to P10 there. I'm not sure what happened there. Oh, that was because Propeller was passed momentarily, but we did see now that all of that battle that was caused there by Propeller has actually caused Declan Brogan to regain that gap between them both, and now Declan Brogan's going to be all over the rear of Propeller for position. And we also see again another Italian car getting close, as well as the British car of the V12 getting very, very close as well. So this could be nearly a 5-way battle for what is only going to be P9. So there's still quite a bit on the line, but it's not like pit stops will be able to help out massively, because they will. They definitely will, and we have seen it in the past on how much pit stops actually can be able to gain for these drivers as well. So it's going up as well. Nico getting closer to Victor once again for position number 2. He has been able to get this close before, but not been able to get past P2 just yet. As this could be his chance going into the chicane. Now he is all over the rear of him. I believe about 2/10 between them both. He could go into the chicane with a higher advantage at the moment. It does seem he does gain quite a bit of time there, as we do see him going into the hairpins, then going for a full swerve, going for the outside line. Can he do some sort of switchback? Is he going to be too far back? As we do also see this getting a bit rowdy here down here for position is Blackick. Once again being able to keep his position of P5 from Alexander, but it does seem Alexander was able to get past Vink for position. It's starting to get rowdy, as I just mentioned. As well as that, Hutton Buttons going to be able to get closer, but it's not going to be close enough to get past Victor for position. At the moment, we do see him going for the inside line, going into the penultimate corner. It did seem to work there. It almost wouldn't work there because Victor, if he didn't get on the grass that we did just see him do, he would have probably been able to regain his position of P26. But Hutton's Buttons actually makes a mistake once again, but there is a bit of hesitation there from Victor, which causes him to keep P26 now. But we do see currently the biggest winner in terms of positions at the moment has to go to James Seal with 14 positions gained since the start of this race, followed then by Alan Breen just further down the road with 10 positions, followed then as well by, I believe, Victor, Revrock and Colombo both having 6 positions gained to their name, and then the rest are about 1s and 2s. Fortunately, the biggest losers in positions at the moment is going to be Anthony Fox, who has that stop-go 30-second penalty that I've only just noticed. It's going to be for speeding in the pit lane, as he is released off the jacks now. He has lost pretty much every single position he was able to gain. I believe he was about P5 in qualifying, but losing all of those positions out, unfortunately for him. Followed then by, it is going to have to be Alavi going from P1 or P2 almost, all the way down to P17. There was nearly a good switch back there from what was going to be, that is actually traffic, I believe. Is that traffic? Yeah, that's James Terry. I'm not sure why there's any sort of retaliation there from him, but he is able to get back. And there's going to be some lapping once again. And I did say this, that traffic is going to play quite a major factor into this race. We're only 20 minutes into this race and we're seeing traffic already playing a part. Then again, you see as well, Halivac unfortunately losing 30 positions during the start of this race, and that's going to be at, I didn't know there was 2 Halivacs. Halivac number 1, oh, I believe it's Adnan in P33, losing 13 positions unfortunately, and I assume his brother or a relative of Dino Halivac in the BMW M4, fortunately losing 11 positions. So there has been quite a mixed race for people at the moment. People gaining a significant amount of people, some people losing a significant amount of positions. We do now see Declan Brogan actually trying to get past Vil for position. Is there going to be a switchback? Yes, there is. Is he going to be able to put it off? No, because Vil was able to close the door in time. But I've only just realised Papella has actually been able to get away from the rest of the field of Vil and Declan Brogan, who have had this little Lambo club, as Mike put it in chat earlier. So as this, we do see Vink actually once again trying to get past P4 of Blackick for position. At the moment he isn't going to be close enough, but actually is he going to be close enough going into now the final few corners of sector 3. Turn 6 and 7 can be a bit difficult being able to take all of the inside line, but we already have seen, unfortunately, Hutton's Buttons taking it a bit wrong on the first few laps of this race. That did cause him to lose all of those positions that he is slowly but surely gaining them back. So as we do see Jeffrey Witter, Ferrari on Alan Breen for position, as he's going to be able to get past going through the craning curves. He's not going to be close enough just yet for him to be able to get past. So do you see that is going to be, I believe that's going to be the Brewski going off into the gravel trap on the exit of the corner curve, so they're going into turn 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now we do see Alan Breen using the wing as reference to see how much time we do see Jeffrey Witter actually being able to gain. Now using that slipstream to his advantage, that isn't going to be able to kick a massive part in. Only a short straight, but we can see it gains a tiny bit of time for him going into the top of gears. So we do see it's actually going to be a track cut there for Alan Breen. Unfortunately, that is going to be him with a track cut, but gains quite a bit of time for it, but is under pressure, it seems, from Jeffrey Witter behind us. We can use that as an example, taking the penultimate corner a tiny bit wrong there. Jeffrey Witter being able to gain all of that time back after Alan Breen's track cut. Does seem Jeffrey Witter, I thought he was going into the pits there, but he has a significant amount of oversteer going on to start finish straight. That has been able to increase that gap once again. Bob saying internet dropped. Gad, were you the Aston Martin by any chance? I believe it could have been. How's David Cook getting on? That's a brilliant question. David Cook is currently in P16 in the, well, currently what seems to be P6 in silver class in the Texaco Cosworth livery, as well as we do actually see he's under pressure from the PLR Academy of Elmstrom. Behind him, might be losing this position soon. In terms of last laps, it is going to be in favour of Elmstrom with its 127.070 is compared to David Cook's 127.207. Going across the line, it might change once again. Do you see it is still an Elmstrom who's actually being able to gain on his personal best lap time of that 127.065 compared to 127.6 to David Cook. So there could potentially be something wrong with Cook's car. It could be tyres already downgrading, which might be the issues. We can see he gets a bit of an oversteer moment, almost hitting Elmstrom there because of it, and that is going to be Elmstrom being able to get quite an easy overtake, and that is going to be him, unfortunately. Just losing the position going into P17. That I think he might have the stream on in the background. What, David? Hi, David. Alexander as well. Now, actually, just trying to lunge going into the inside line, going in to the penultimate corner of the first hairpin, but it's not going to work for him just yet, as we do see that little move that Alexander did make caused what seemed to be Megiro, and that is, I believe that's actually going to be Ed in P5. I'm not sure. Why is it? Where is Ed? No, he's in P7 now. I'm not sure why. What's happened there? So he's lost a few positions, Ed, compared to what we saw earlier. But he is, I guess, once again on the ground to get these positions done. Once again, as we do see Megiro losing the position to Ed. Now Alexander under a bit of pressure from him, going through the crane of curves. As well as that, going further down. So you actually now see Jeffrey Witter once again lunging himself through the outside of the first hairpin. It's not going to work for him just yet. Actually loses quite a bit of time, and it does also cause Liam Bao to be able to gain quite a bit of time. But now these three Ferraris get a bit rowdy. It does seem that it's going to be Breen getting quite a bad exit onto the start finish straight. That is going to cause Jeffrey Witter to be all over the rear of his Ferrari 296 going into turn 1. Now it actually starts to gain a tiny bit of time once again, and this is also going to be Liam Bao being able to try gain this time, but going on board with Alan Breen. Now going onto the crane curves to see how much time he can actually gain under the slipstream advantage here. Jeffrey Witter being able to fly past going onto the exit of turn 3. Turn 3, turn 4. Exit of the crane curves, now going into turn 5 and 6. Being able to create once again a bit of a gap after Jeffrey Witter was able to get past. But now Alan Breen's main priority is not letting Liam Bao through. But at the moment, after that little mistake we just witnessed, that not might be the case, which we might see that is not going to be the right car. Actually, is one thing I do hate about ACC is how the leaderboard updates every sector. It's definitely better than what we see in iRacing when I believe it updates every lap, but it's still very, very annoying when trying to find where everyone is on track. But James Terry losing the position to James Seal. The position, it does seem P30 all the way to P36 have pitted, so it's starting to become more and more cars starting to do their mandatory pit stops. I believe it's again just fuel. I'm not sure if it's changed per race. Greg might need to help me on that one. So I know last race it was fuel only, but I believe a lot of people actually took tyres because of how hot of the track it was. No mandatory tyre change. Nice. Gaining once again on James Seal to try and regain this position. He does go for a bit of a dive there. It does seem there's a bit of hesitation there from James Seal, and that is going to be an easy position made by James Terry going up into P31. Oh, I see. They have to change the tyres. Oh, okay. Never mind. James Terry once again going up into P31, trying to get closer and closer. Mr. Karma, that doesn't matter, don't worry. So Nico now, once again, we've seen this, well, you could say it's starting to create a bit of a loop. So do you see Victor losing quite a bit of time to Dean. Dean actually being able to create now a 13-second gap on my screen between him and Victor, but we do see Victor loses quite a bit of time to Nico, but then Nico wasn't able to get past legally because of the positioning of Victor's car, and now he just drops off pace again, and then that just keeps happening. We do see he's flying ahead. I 100% agree at the moment, unless it's going to be a bit of an issue there, as we do see that it's going to be a tiny bit of an issue for Victor now, getting a tiny bit of an oversteer moment going into the final corner. That's going to cause now Victor to, well, be under significant amounts of pressure. So we do see there's barely a gap between the two cars of P2 and P3, and that is going to cause, actually, it was a tiny bit of a mistake, it seems, from Nico trying to not collide with P2 of Victor. That's actually going to cause Blackick to be once again involved in this battle between P3 and P4, and once again, I'm telling you, it's this endless loophole between them both. Endless loop. What? I've mixed two words up. I mean, endless loop. I was just thinking if I used the right word there. Three of them starting to get closer with each other, but at the moment, still not going to be close enough. Blackick actually braking very late, and that is going to cause him to go into the gravel trap, as we did just see. And now that's going to put less pressure on Nico. It's actually Nico now goes for the move, going into the first of the hairpins, and they do make contact between each other. And that's going to be Victor and Nico almost performing a pit maneuver, but luckily they were both able to maintain the same positions they were in. A very, very slow pit maneuver. At least he was able to save the position, and they are still in the same position, but we do see Blackie was able to catch up quite significantly, but we do see Victor going into the pit. Same with Alexander. Not sure if anyone else will, but there's quite a few people actually in the pits. It seems Ricardo and the Itri, one of the Itris, are in the pits as well. I believe it's going to be Enrico Itri in the green Ferrari. What's that? Nico now going up into P2 provisionally. As well as that, going further, well, further down actually, do you see that is going to be, I think is this Zorakick? I think that's how you say it. Getting closer to Adam Long in the Aston Martin V12. It's currently in P7. Thing about it, which is actually quite a significant gain for Adam Long, as he's been able to gain 10 positions since the start of this race, going from P17. So that is absolutely absurd. He might be under pressure though for once against Zorakick for position. Obviously, we do see some people have pitted, so it does affect everything as well. But we do see he's actually trying to go for a move on Declan Brogan. Declan Brogan not being able to get it, but we see there's going to be an oversteer moment there from Adam Long, which is able to keep Declan Brogan in P6. But going into now the final corner, we do see the door's going to be wide open for Zorkick to get past of Adam Long, but he's going to go straight into the pits, lunging in with Declan Brogan. So it did not matter in the end. He's the nail. This pit stop to still be be ahead of Zorkick, and we need Zorkick, or he needs Zorkick to at least mess up his pit stop by a second or two to stay in the lead of that fight, which is, I believe, going to be for P7 provisionally, because obviously some of the people have pitted already, so that does play a huge factor in this as well. We do see there hasn't been any sort of drive-through penalties just yet. Not trying to commentators curse anyone at all, but being Donington, it's quite strict on track limits, especially going through the corners we're going through now. Is a double right-hander having quite a big apex going on to the inside line. Same with going into the chicane, can easily cut it. I agree with you there, Mike. It definitely played a part with it, and it has done previously, and I believe it was Paul Ricard played quite a significant factor in the midfield run, because I believe two people got drive-through penalties down and made it quite close towards the end of the race. But we do see now this could be Adam Long once again playing a tiny bit rough with the rest of the cars, trying to get closer to Declan Brogan. All of them have pitted now. They have came out to be in P17, P16 and P15, as we do see Tom Week also getting involved with this. That's going to be now Dean Zunobovic actually in amongst all of these cars, which is going to make it a tiny bit more difficult for Dean to get by and not lose that much time. Does seem there's actually going to be a 30-second gap between him and P2 with Zunobovic, but that is only going to increase over time. But we will see Zunobovic probably coming into the pits in the next few laps or so, because it's obviously, if there's a mandatory tyre change, as we know there is now, it's worth playing even tyre wear on both tyre sets, because there's no point using one set for, let's say, 3/4 of the race and using the other set for, let's say, a quarter of the race. And it's just no point. And do you see Adam Long getting a bit of contact there? That's going to be from Dabrowski trying to regain his position. But that's Dabrowski, who unfortunately hasn't had the best of races so far, currently in P34. Would be quite a bit higher, as we can see him actually battling with P17 now, as we do actually see that is going to be David Cook going side by side with the Aston Martin of Adam Long, as he's able to get by. This is all because of traffic starting to play a bit of a factor in this race, as I said earlier. But we do see David Cook was for position. He goes up into P16, now looking to get by to Declan Brogan, who is just further up the road, as we can see. Adam Long trying to trace his footsteps, trying to get closer and closer to the back of him. So as that, we do see Nico going through the final chicane. Not being able to keep it. Robert Jennings actually still trying to play a part in this. Fourth position, I believe it is. Or just letting the other cars go by. This is when we do see the first lap of traffic actually starting to occur. So you see there's going to be battles for the lower positions happening at the same time as a battle for the higher positions on the same part of the track. So it all makes it a bit more interesting as the gaps start to reel in once again. 25 minutes left of this race so far. Very interesting race with only 25 minutes left. You also see as well Alavi once again trying to get past what is going to be Tom Week for position going into the craning curves. Does seem going through the end of the craning curves. Tom Week does have the inside line, but it's not going to match as Alavi to being able to get past even before that benefit can be used for him, as well as Alexander now going through what is going to be the double right-handers before the start of Sector 3. He is able to get by, but we do see Nico is actually going to try and make some sort of retaliation for P4. He goes straight for the inside line, going into the chicane. It's not going to work for him just yet, as Alexander's able to keep P4. He has to try stick himself straight onto the inside line, going into the... Yeah, so we do see it going into the hairpins as he stays ahead. Is there going to be a switchback? Yes, there is, by Nico. It's not going to work for him, as we do see once again Alexander being able to screw the door shut to him. Notice we do see Ed in front of him as well. It's starting to get a bit rough between these three. So we do see Ed still being able to have a bit of breathing space between us, and because of how much retaliation there is going to be between all three of those drivers of Victor, Nico and Alexander, it's going to cause that gap just to increase and increase only, unless obviously Ed makes a bit of a mistake like we did just see. That isn't a major mistake that will lose him too much time. So that now Alexander's still being able to maintain P4 and actually starting to create a tiny bit of gap for himself between him and Nico. Nico hopefully being able to stay consistent, as we have seen Nico actually showing quite a lot of promise during this race. Turning P5, was up into P4 I believe at one point. Yeah, losing a position from his original qualification slot of P4. So let's go further down Hutton's buttons, getting in the slipstream of James Terry for position going into turn 1 before the corner curves. Very, very strict corners here, can do it very, very wrong. So I believe, I could be wrong with this, is you're supposed to take, because I don't race much anymore, as I never really raced much, but going into turn 1 you have obviously the pit lane roads on the left hand side, which you do see obviously people using to maximize how much track you actually do. But if you take too much, I believe it is actually a track cut, so that is obviously something to take into consideration. I'm not sure how far you need to exceed track limits going into that for it to be a track cut, but I'm not sure. It's the same with Indianapolis going into turn 6 I believe it is, going onto the back straight before, yeah, going onto the back straight is if you stay onto the left side for too long you get a track cut for that as well, which I find a bit mental to believe. And I believe it's with Imola is the strictest for it. We actually do see that it's going to be Robert Jennings actually starting. That seems to get in the way of what I'm not actually sure who I'm on board with now. It's Declan Brogan with Robert Jennings in front causing this. That's going to be Adam Long actually to be able to play a big factor in this race now, as he tries to go side by side with him going in to the back straight, going into sector 3 at the moment. It's not going to work for him just yet, but the V12 having that really, really good top end speed. He just swerves for the inside line, but it's not going to work for him just yet. He loses a lot of momentum for that swerve with 20 minutes left to go. It just has to tuck himself behind at the moment. Yeah, it is definitely a nice battle. It might be the end of it. It's Tom Week as well. P12, Declan Brogan, P13. Looking to start a new battle. And Long now losing a bit of time between the both of us. We actually see that is going to be the Golf McLaren going side by side with him going into the Craner curves. I believe that's going to be... I'm not actually sure entirely who that is. That might be further down. It is. That's going to be Stickford, actually. I'm going to try go side by side. That was going to be Tom Week. And obviously we do see that's going to be Brent as well in front of him. So there's two quite major battles, you could say, at two completely different ends of the leaderboards, as they do go side by side now going into the final corners of Sector 2. This is actually going to be Tom Week trying to get past as quickly as he can to try and just dismantle this train as much as he can. As we can see, it's able to get by, as we do see Tom once again eager to try to get by as quickly as he can, flashing his lights. Because of this, now Stickford has actually created a tiny bit of gap for himself between him and the 31 McLaren O'Brien. which again, I told you it would make such a huge factor. We can barely see now McLaren O'Brien in view of this camera angle. So it's that now. Adam Long trying to go side by side with Declan Brogan as we go 3 wide going into the final corner. That is very sketchy to say the least. But now with the Aston Martins, top end speed might be able to go side by side with Declan Brogan, as we can see he's able to gain quite a bit of time, but isn't going to be able to gain enough going into turn 1, going into the craning curves. The Aston Martin V12, I'm not sure how much of this he can take flat. Obviously the aero has changed over time, and that car now being, I believe it's 11 years old, is obviously not going to have some of the advanced aero such as the McLaren 720S or the Ferrari 296, for example, having probably one of the most advanced aero regulations on the car, I believe it is, or sort of aero strategies. I'm not sure what you'd say for it, aero something. I'm just going to continue. Nico though actually losing a tiny bit of time to Alexander for the position of P4. Does seem Nico was able to get by once again from Alexander, but there's a bit of retaliation between them both. Again, the V12 is heavy as well. That is going to play quite a big factor, as Seba says in chat. That's going to play a huge factor on areas. We do see there is a yellow flag going into the hairpin here. That's actually going to be Sremovic actually going to be spun out there. We will try to see what happened there. Currently in P17. Does seem, was there a tiny bit of contact? That might be a tiny bit of contact. Is that James Seal in the Ferrari 296? I'm not sure, so I won't start pointing names. But whoever it was, it did seem there was a bit of a pit maneuver, which is going to cause Sremovic to lose so many positions going down. Still hasn't gone yet. Not sure why he hasn't gone yet, if he's going to go yet. He hasn't even turned his wheel in preparation of going, but no, he's fully retired, unfortunately, from the race, it seems. Going back to pits there, and think that might be another retirement from the race, unfortunately. That Greg pointing out there's a minus 40 kg ballast. That is probably why it's actually going to be quite competitive, as we can actually see what the bop is like. But Nico actually still trying to get by Alexander as quickly as he can. Again, this does seem he gets very unsettled on the curves there. That could have potentially been the track cut as well, but he is still being able to keep it, as Victor is going to go side by side with him going into the first hairpin, gets the inside line, which is going to be such a crucial place to get this move done, and he gets it done even before the end of the hairpin, as he just sticks himself up into P4 now for position, I believe. The choice of bops, I guess, means the older cars can still fight. Bop, in my opinion, is probably the best thing to ever be. It obviously does make the grid more and more diverse, causing the next gen cars to still be quite even with the older gen cars. That's why we do see the Reiter and obviously the Aston V12 of Adam Long, who I believe, I'm not actually sure where he is, he's P12. Both cars being those older gen cars, and I believe we might have a few other older gen cars, I'm not too sure. But they're still being able to fight, but we do see it's not a dominant grid of those Ferraris and McLarens anymore compared to what we did see at the start of when those cars came out and when bops were very underdeveloped. But now we have seen like bops like LFM, Pit Skills Bop, and obviously custom bops that servers make. I know Onid has their own custom bop. I know QRT, I believe, do as well, unless they use the Onid bop and everything like that. It does make it just so much more better in terms of racing, and it does make the grids more diverse. I just want to see a BMW M6. I believe we saw one last season. Or unless I'm thinking of a different league. Oh, lacking of GTRs as well. Yeah, we need GTRs back. I believe Dean took the Lexus last season, didn't he? But what's it called? Lexus is my favorite car. I used to have a poster of a Lexus GT3. I'm not sure where it is though, actually. It might be in the attic. I might have to try re-put that out somewhere. But at the moment, my entire back walls I've been completely redecorating is all Royal Blood vinyls, as I spent way too much money on vinyl records of Royal Blood at the moment. But it looks very nice. Raw Blood being a UK band for people who don't know. There's now Alan Breen. Actually getting closer than ever to the Broski. These two cars have battled before. But it's still not going to be close enough, but there was a bit of a mistake there. What seemed to be from Dabrowski, which just caused Alan Breen to get by with ease there. As we'll get a replay on what happened there. Seemed going on to... Yeah, it just goes a bit wide there, going on to turn 4, I believe it is. And that is going to cause now Dabrowski to lose the position to Alan Breen. And Alan Breen going up to P30 with ease. 13 minutes left of this race. This has flown by. I'll be honest, we do see that we have seen our first drive-through penalty of the day, unfortunately, and it's going to be a car that has been battling for some time. It's going to be a drive-through for Nico, unfortunately, as we do see him serving it now. I believe he might have gotten that going on to the chicane. An easy killer of track limits. It's luckily, though, in terms of drive-through shit, it's not the slowest of drive-throughs. It's actually quite a short pit stop. As you can already see, it's already out again and going down into P15. So didn't lose that many positions compared to the lengths of Spa or Indianapolis or places like that, where you see such a long pit lane. But it's still obviously quite a big inconvenience here for Nico. All of that work of going up into P14, losing 11 positions because of it, having to try fight it back going into the final 12 minutes is probably not the ideal situation for him. Dabrowski now as well, once again trying to retaliate after Alan Breen was able to get by after the little mistake that Dabrowski made going on to turn 4. Now so he gains quite a bit of time on Breen, now going into turn 6 and 7. Do you see Alan Breen's tyres is starting to die a tiny bit? Just getting understeer in places you don't want to understeer. It's now seeing how much time he's actually being able to gain. I said too many words in a sentence there that did not make sense. Apologise for that. Doesn't Alan Breen though getting a bit of a mistake going through the chicane, just getting his tyre on the gravel trap now, as we do see Dabrowski now being able to try and retaliate for position. Is it going to be a switchback? He looked for a switchback there, but Alan Breen all over it, trying to glue the inside line as best as he can, which it did work now going into the final hairpin. He does the same thing, just covering the inside line as best as he can, going on to start finish straight as well. We do now see Brian as well being able to catch up for position, and this could be a battle for P30 all the way down into P32. So 3 cars for this position. 11 minutes. Can we see Alan Breen holding that for 11 minutes? He has done this pit stop. I believe everyone has done their pit stop. Yeah, Dean as well. Dean doing his pit stop and still having a 24-second gap is quite insane to believe. But Dean having quite a calm race so far from South. Vink actually being able once again catch up with that is going to be waked up, who has lost that position obviously to Alexander. Was originally in P. Actually no, it was Nico who lost that position because of the drive-through. Never mind. It doesn't look to go is a tiny bit wide once again to turn 4. We did see that with Dabrowski earlier, but wasn't able to manage to save his position of P5. Now Seba calling Dean Hamilton. That would have to require him being washed. No, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. I'm actually a Hamilton supporter. But hey ho, hopefully with Hamilton going to Ferrari, and we do see obviously the rumours of Red Bull's designer going to Ferrari as well. That could be quite a good step for Ferrari to be once again dominant. see Wickton now getting a bit of traffic. That is going to be, I believe that's, I forgot who that is. I believe that might have been, oh, who was that actually? Yeah, Liam Bao, that's who it was. 9 minutes left, going to the single digits of time now. Broski as well. Actually trying to gain positions, but it does seem he's not being able to gain anything just yet. Alan Breen still being able to hold off the pressure of the three cars. You can see behind him, one of them being obviously one of the Itcheries. Might be an actual Itchery seen behind them, but he has actually been able to create a tiny bit of a gap for himself between Brian and Broski. As well as that, now he's not going to be able to gain enough. Still 8 minutes, but he does make a mistake there. That's going to cause Dabrowski to get by. Can we see actually Hardy being able to regain that position of P31 going on to the final 8 minutes? Not a lot of time, about 5 or so laps to be able to try gain any sort of move on him. Not being able to actually get enough time so far on him. However, Elmstrom gaining these positions back, getting closer and closer to his starting position of P12. Just needs to get past Tom Week to be able to get into his qualifying position. All over the rear of him now. As well as that, Vil actually under pressure from Zorkic as well. Vil being able to be in P7 so far, but actually might lose it to Zorkic if he's not able to hold it off for the final 6 minutes of the race. I'm not sure how good the Writer actually is. And the aero, it might be quite good, it might be quite bad. So now we go side by side. It does seem that is going to be Victor getting out the way of these three drivers going from P7 to P9. Going through, obviously, the crane of curves, I'm not sure if he has the lift at all going through the first kink. I'm hoping not, because he'll lose significant time to that dominant Ferrari 296 we can see behind him. But it does seem the Ferrari's brakes is a lot better than Vil's Writer, and that is not a surprise, as now we do see going on into turn 5. All over the rear of him. 5 minutes left to do. Can he actually hold it back? It does seem he's going to try go for the inside move. He is going to go and lunge it a tiny bit, but he is going to be squeezed a tiny bit, and you're going to expect that as they do go side by side. Now going on to the chicane, he has the benefit going into the first part of the chicane, but it's not going to be enough. There's a bit of flashing there from Zorkic, because he does go for a huge lunge there, and that's going to be him cutting the entire corner there. Zorkic to get by. I'm not sure how legal that move was. But he is up into P7 nonetheless, and now we do actually see Alavi putting a tiny bit of pressure to get past, and now he is going to be all over the rear. Alavi going on to the start finish straight. Ferrari is just outpacing him. Yeah, but you still got to respect getting past him legally, because I'll be honest, I'm not sure how much of a legal position. I'm not going to say anything on the steward's stuff, because obviously I'm not a steward. I will let the stewards decide if that's even reported. If it's not reported, then it's not reported. Hey ho, because obviously there's no contact. But It's just definitely a controversial move to say the least. But pace-wise, yeah, looking, he was significantly faster, but Vil being able to defend quite effectively for obviously that, I think it was about 12 minutes or so. Now going on to this back straight. Vil still being able to hold off at least one of the Ferraris going on to the chicane. Now it does seem they both take it quite nicely, but the overspeed of the Ferrari is going to be quite significant compared to Vil's righteous. They actually go pretty wide there, as it's actually going to be retaliation from Vil. This is risky from Vil though to try and get this. He gets the inside line going in to the final hairpin though. This is going to be amazing if he's going to be able to regain the position. Yes, he is. And he goes up into P7 once again, as we do actually see Zarkic under a bit of pressure now from Alavi. Alavi being able to get by quite swiftly and easily from Zarkic. There is going to be retaliation from Zarkic, just getting past Liam Bao. He's free going mental, as we do see that's going to be Anthony Fox, unfortunately going off into the gravel trap of turn 1. Welcome in, I think you Valek? Sorry if I'm saying it wrong. Into chat. Wonder if he gave that positions back there. I assume he might have, just by how he positioned the car and stuff. It didn't seem he was fighting it back. If he's watching the stream, I respect you for that. I respect you very much for that, Zorkick, if you did that. Nevertheless, DCville is still in P7. 2 minutes left to go. Roughly about 2 laps left, depending on where Dean is located on track. Still about a 30-second gap between P1 and P2 at the moment. Now, Vil having to try glue himself to the inside line before Alabi tries to go for a move. Vil is one of the best drivers on the grids. He won the championship last year, I believe. Also, where's Ben Crook gone? I haven't seen him in a while. So he did season 1. I'm honestly, even without this championship on the line, Vil being able to, I'm not going to jinx anything yet, but coming in P7 in a Reuter in such a competitive grid is honestly astonishing. Hats off to Vil for being able to pull this off so far. I fully agree with you, Mike. Anyone who can put that Reuter up in a good position is always going to be good in anyone's eyes. Because that is more just something to go on a resume more than anything. Oh, he's on iRacing at the moment. Oh, one of us. So, well, what has happened there? That's Alan Breen getting pit maneuver from Dabrowski there. Seems going on to start finish straight. It does seem they're getting very close with each other. It does seem Dabrowski just taking the entire racing line as much as he can, trying to get the switch back on him. Now just making a tiny bit of contact there, misjudging how close Alan Breen was with him. It does seem he, again, hats off to Dabrowski, letting Breen back by 4 position. So you do hear the crew chief saying Dean has entered his final lap, going on to what I believe is going to already be the final few corners, going on to sector 3. So it's a bit late to the party for saying that, but this is going to be honestly one of the best races I think I've ever commentated on. It's very unfortunate I'm still ill, but hey ho, we do see Dean now coming into the final 2 corners. He's going to try and get past what I believe that's going to be Itri or Ricardo for position. As we do see, is that a disconnect there? Or is that just a car going extremely wide? I believe that might be a disconnect actually, because I can't see a car. 2 seconds left to go. We do see now Dean coming across the final corner to take the win for round 4 here on the World Tour Season 2. As we do see him nearly crashing there actually. Dean taking pole position for the 3rd time of this season in round 4 at Donington Park, increasing his gap in the championship significantly there. as well as we do see Elmstrom now under, well, it's actually going to be Adam under pressure from Elmstrom going into the final few corners here. As it does seem Elmstrom's got to try look for a move going into the chicane. It's not going to work for him just yet. Adam Long still being able to contain that position, but there's going to be another move there. There's going to be Nico actually going to be able to get past Elmstrom for the position. He gets the inside line going into the first of the hairpins, and now we do see him having the better advantage with the inside lines. We actually see him, he's also going to try to retaliate with Adam Long, but at the moment I don't think he's going to be able to. He just wants to try to defend, as he was able to make that such last minute position. There's going to be hesitation there from Adam Long, and this is going to make a photo finish potentially. No, it is not. It does seem Nico is going to be able to take P12 there. We just see how many people are stopping on the top of that track there, and that is going to be pretty much everyone finishing the race, I believe that, and that is going to be only a few cars not finishing so far as Axel Itchery now coming through the final corner. I believe one of the last cars, if not the last car to finish the race. Axel Itchery coming through the final corner now to take the checkered flag for P14, and I must say that was probably one of my favourite races to commentate on now. That was, yeah, hats off to all of the drivers for that. So just a great race, lots of action, great commentating. Thank you very much, Mike. Good to see you in chat, and I thank so many people for being in chat for tonight's race. I know there was quite a few, what's it called, sign out for today's race, but I obviously, hopefully more people will be racing for next race for round 5, and I completely forgot the track, so hopefully Greg can tell me what the track is, because I don't really know until the last minute, because I'm commentating pretty much every day during the week. As we do see Adam obviously happened to P8 with the V12 Imola, you think, so it could be Imola next race, which is obviously a bigger track compared to Donington, which is going to be easier for them, obviously being wider as well. Or is it Suzuka? I'm getting two different answers there. So I'm just going to say it's one of those two tracks, completely different locations, one being in Europe, one being in Asia. So, hey-ho. But that is going to be it for tonight's race, I believe. I've been your commentator, Alex Newman, also known as Aces in the Discord. Thank you very much for everyone for joining me for tonight's race, and I will see you on Monday on the first race of May, and I believe it might be the final month, unless it overrides into June. I haven't checked that either, but I'll see you guys later. Have a great rest of your evening, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.